I've heard that the mic might be a little tinny out there. As someone who doesn't have great ears myself, if you can't hear, please wave so that we can make sure that we can get the messages out. So for those of you meeting me for the first time, I'm Becca Balint, and I'm the lone... I'm in the House of Representatives. And I'm going to introduce, before I get into my remarks, I'm going to introduce some of my staff. I have a terrific staff, and I couldn't do the work that I do without them. And so many of them came down with me to Windham County tonight to help run this as smoothly as we can. Who am I introducing right now? Okay, come on out. All right, so David Scher, who is director, and Carolyn Wesley, Windham County gal,
excited to be here tonight. We will turn it right back over to the star of the show in just a minute, but I had a couple items of housekeeping for you. One is that, as you saw, the concession stand is open. We realize it's dinner time. If you're hungry, feel free to get some food. The bathrooms are also in the back. We're also very pleased to be joined by several local state representatives and state senators. If you can raise your hand so that folks know that you're here. Well, pleased to have you here, and I'm sure your state representatives will be happy to answer questions as well. We're going to start with some brief remarks from the Congresswoman, of course, and then we're going to go right into a question and answer session. And we want to make sure we get through all the questions and answers that we possibly can. There's a lot of you out there. In order to facilitate that in a fair and orderly way, our Operations Director, Carolyn, is going to walk you through our question system.
I know you already heard from me, there are a few people standing in the back, and I'm going to assume that's right where you want to be, but there are still some empty seats here in the front row. There's whole sections over here. We're here for an hour and a half. We'll be doing a lot of talking, so I just want you to know if you want a seat, there are some. And some of you chatted with us on the way, and we are piloting, we are always innovating in Congresswoman Becca Balint's office. We are piloting a best practice for a town hall with this ticket system. So you will let us know at the end how well it goes. But basically, anyone who wanted to ask a question, took a ticket, we have those after the Congresswoman delivers her opening remarks. We'll bring those up, we'll do a little Vanna White pulling of a couple names, and we will invite those people down to either of the reserved seats in the front row on either side, so you can sit and wait for your chance to ask your questions, so we don't have people clogging up the roads, we're not obstructing line of sight to the Congresswoman. So we'll read the number. If your number is called, you can come and take a seat and wait for a chance to ask your question. If your number is called and you no longer have a question or someone's already answered it, just don't come and we will call another one. And then of course, our office is always available to you via our website and our phone number, and so if you don't have a chance to ask a question tonight, you can do it that way. You can talk to a number of staff. So thank you for trying this out with us in our brave little stage. And with that, we'll turn it back over to the Congresswoman, and when she finishes it up, we'll call out the numbers. Thanks so much.
And they're doing that because the previous town halls that I did, some folks were frustrated because they felt like we didn't have a good variety of people around the hall. We ran out of time. I went on too long. So we're trying to get better. So thanks for bearing with us. So look, you know it's bad. That's why you're here. That's why you're here. Not going to sugarcoat it. It is bad. It's really, really bad. And as ugly as it is for all of you watching on the outside, it's even worse on the inside. I don't say this to increase everyone's anxiety and fear, because I know it's sky high right now. I hear that from across Vermont, and really when I'm traveling across the country. But I want to be completely honest with you, that it's going to take all of us in this moment to pull us back from the edge. It's going to take every single one of us. There isn't one person or one policy or one event or one rallying cry that's going to do it. It's going to take all of us. And that's why it's so important for me to start off by saying, it isn't just that every day there's bad news, it's every hour. And I know people are feeling overwhelmed, and what happens when we become overwhelmed is we become paralyzed. And that is what autocrats want. They want us to become paralyzed. They want us to check out. They want us to feel like it's hopeless. It's not hopeless. It's bad. The situation right now is bad, but it is not hopeless. And I want you to know that there are so many people in Congress working so hard right now, and you will never know their names because they're backbenchers who do not run for the cameras, but who are in committee day after day going toe-to-toe with people who are trying to dismantle government. So you're not alone. That's the other reason I wanted to be here, to say, I am one person, but I have hundreds of people behind me. If you could see my colleagues on the Democratic side standing with me tonight. There are so many of us, but it's going to take all of you as well to continue to do this work. Now, a lot of people have asked me, and I'll just say it at the top, why aren't Republicans speaking up? I have several answers, because there isn't just one answer. It's a couple different buckets of people. And I came from the state legislature. We are used to working in a bipartisan manner. I was the first woman to lead the Senate in Vermont. We had bills that we got through the chamber that were bills that were supported by Democrats and Republicans. That is how I was trained, is to always try to find common ground. But what has happened right now is the Republican Party has decided they do not want to use their power in Congress. They don't want to use the power that's been given explicitly to Congress, the powers of the purse, powers to be able to determine what is happening with our trade policy and tariffs. And instead, they've decided that their job is to rubber stamp whatever it is that the president has said, whether it's legal or not. For some, they are afraid about their next election. For some, they are literally afraid that people will show up at their house. Because Donald Trump let out the January 6th insurrectionists, and the very next day, many of them came back into Congress and were sitting in the balcony watching us as a warning. So my colleagues, some of them, will say to you, I don't want my family to be in danger. I don't want my wife or my kids to be in danger. So I'm not going to speak up. So what we continue to tell them is you have to jump together. You can't let them divide you and pick you off one by one. In the last week, I've seen some cracks, some positive cracks within the Senate and with a couple members of the House understanding that nothing will change unless they join us in being a bulwark against what I believe is an authoritarian government. It only takes 4 House Republicans, 4, to stop so much of this. So I want you to think about that we can't even get 4 right now. So when people ask, why can't you bring things to the floor? Why can't you stop things in committee? In the House, and the Senate is different, but in the House, if you don't have the speakership of the House, you have basically no power. You don't get to bring bills to committee. You don't get to bring bills to the floor. You don't get to decide who the witnesses are. So it's shocking when you look at what the tools are that are actually at our disposal right now in a minority. There aren't many. We're using the ones that we have. I have been one of the vocal folks within the caucus saying we need to gum up the works more. The problem in the House is, thank you. Let's back them up. Let's back them up. Because we can't use the same strategies that we used 2 decades ago. Because they're not following the rules. We're not going to lose our sense of ethics. We're not going to lose our values. But we cannot continue to think that they're going to meet us halfway. They are not going to meet us halfway. They would have already done it. So let's throw some punches. That's where I'm at. So, I just want to say it is the honor of my life to have this job. And I know people kind of can't believe I want to have this job right now. It is the honor of my life to have it. It is the most difficult thing I've ever done, except for parenting. But I'm honored every day when I get to walk into committee or walk up the steps of the Capitol and think about all of you. And all of the students that I had for years. I was a classroom teacher before this, and I think about those students. So I'm here tonight in the service of all of you, and with that, I'd love to just go right to questions. So, Carolyn, take it away.
Congresswoman. Is this mic on? My sound?
Barely.
Nope.
No, I don't think it is.
Can we? Oh, there it is. Okay, so we're going to call 4 numbers, and I will repeat them twice. If your number is called, you're going to be looking at the last 3 numbers on your ticket. If your number is called, please come up to whichever microphone is closer to you and take a seat nearby. When it's your turn to ask a question, please keep it concise, and please do ask a question. And try to keep it to around 1 minute, and we might give you a little prompt if you are running long. And then when you've asked your question, you can take your seat again to listen to the Congresswoman's response. And before the last person goes, we'll call the next couple of numbers. And again, we're just trying this out, so thank you for your patience.
This is Carolyn, if I could, before you pick the numbers. So David's here, I see Aileen is here, you're here. Who are the other staffers who are with us today? Can you raise your hand?
Owen's in the back,
Owen's in the back.
Lauren's in the front, Jessica's up there on stage.
Okay, great.
We're all there to help. Okay, so this is the bin of government transparency. It's clear. You can see your tickets are there. I don't know whose number is being called. Okay, so the first number, again, the last 3 digits is 270. If you have number 270, the lighting's not great in here, but please make your way down to the mic. And you're passing? Is that a pass? Okay, great. The next number is 282. If you have number 282, please make your way down. Thank you.
And if you have mobility issues, we can take your question.
Yes, we will. The next number is 078. The next number is 256. 078, 256, and 081. Those last for 256 and 081. All right, I'm going to turn it over to our first questioner. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Tracy Joy.
Hi, Tracy.
This light is like
I know, it's a
amazing.
lot.
It's like,
It's your moment. Yeah.
I'm a librarian. So I think in Vermont we have it relatively easy. I'm also coming from California, so similarly, but this is something I have no experience with.
Authoritarianism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scared, and
Yeah.
I'm afraid. I've never felt so frozen before,
Yeah.
in terms of just what do I do?
Yeah.
And I heard you at the Brattleboro rally saying just pick one thing, and I'm like, okay, books, challenges, or reproductive health, but in my day-to-day, I'm like really struggling, and patrons in my library are even coming in like crying.
Yeah.
Like, it is real, and I'm just like wondering, I guess this is for you and for everybody, is like, how are we moving forward?
I really appreciate that question. And look, I really believe what I said in that message in Brattleboro, and I have said it on just about every panel that I've been on in this moment. How do we find action when we're so overwhelmed? So if you haven't heard me say it, you pick one thing. You cannot follow all the news. It's impossible. You will never sleep, believe me, okay? And even I, with a full staff, I can't follow all the things. I have to trust my colleagues in Congress who are on other committees of jurisdiction that while I'm in judiciary and while I'm in budget, they're doing the stuff they need to do on natural resources, and they're going to tell me what I need to know. So pick that thing. Is it Veterans Affairs? Is it looking at First Amendment rights, if it's looking at what is happening to green card holders, asylum seekers, is it reproductive rights, is the gutting of the NIH, like, you got a whole host of things to choose from. But pick that thing, become an expert on it, because they're counting on us not having the knowledge. Knowledge is power. I'm a teacher, knowledge is power, and we can't just talk to the people who agree with us. There is a wall of misinformation, and it's very hard to penetrate right now. And so depending on what news organization you follow, you have no idea that the tariffs are happening. You have no idea that thousands of veterans are losing their jobs nationwide. You have no idea that they fired folks who are supposed to watch our nuclear arsenal. You don't know. So we have to take it upon ourselves to talk across difference with our family members, with our friends, and it's not easy. I know it's not. I think we all have family members who are very much in the throes of this administration right now and believe that they are going to show up for them. And I will tell you, this administration doesn't give a damn about working people. Not a damn. Not a damn. Or else they wouldn't be getting Medicaid. They wouldn't be going after Social Security. They wouldn't be firing veterans. They wouldn't be spending all of their time on this trade war, which is going to absolutely decimate the Vermont economy. So find their one thing, focus on it. Now, in terms of the day-to-day, you have to have some practice. And I mean like a daily practice. And for me, it's a gratitude practice. Because it's overwhelming and it's dark. But I make myself sit and think of 3 things that I'm grateful for in my life. And then I have another practice, it's called the Just Like Me practice. And this is what helps me to focus my anger and my rage when I just cannot understand why my colleagues are allowing us to slide into authoritarianism. My practice is, as when I walk into committee, I say, just like me. Just like me, that person has a family. Just like me, that person also has fears. Just like me, in this moment, they're trying to navigate a really hard thing. And even that practice helps connect me to something larger than myself, and I don't feel so alone. But it's a daily struggle. And in Vermont, I think you also you need to get outside and get fresh air.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Young-O'Connor, and I'm a nurse, and I'm married to a 20-year military veteran. I don't deserve that. I'm just married to him. So. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, because I'm sure when you got elected, you did not expect to be having these types of conversations or being in this boat rowing. So I do appreciate everything that you do. I really do. In our family, because we do consider ourselves like a military family, we prepare for the worst but hope for the best.
Yeah.
So my question really has to do with the state of Vermont and what we're going to do to make ourselves very flexible and able to pivot if our infrastructures fail, because I really think that we're going in that direction. I'm really fearful that I won't be able to support my patients in the same way I can now. I'm concerned that we will not have, I mean, you know, we're talking about basics, I'm worried about that. So I just want to find out what you all are doing on your end to say, hey, we need to prepare for this, and so we can pivot very quickly.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, and that's something that we should be thinking about. Yes, thank you so much. The thing is I'm so excited that we have local officials here and state officials here from the House, and I see some senators out there as well, that it is not just about the chaos and destruction happening at the federal government, right? So much of our budget in Vermont is dependent on federal dollars. And so when there's chaos and we can't get our answers, and there are grants that are pulled back, or there are business grants that are committed and now the president's trying to pull them back, which we're seeing at businesses who have made investments, it is not possible for us as a state to patch all those holes. We don't have the money to do it. So it is critically important to continue to engage with your local officials and your state officials on what's the plan locally if things start to fall apart. The job that we will do in Congress is continue to try to bring the money back to Vermont to allow us to have a robust Medicaid program, Medicare, Social Security, make sure our veterans are getting that protection. But it's critically important in this time of chaos that you're having those conversations locally, which is why I say it's going to take all of us. Democracy is an idea. It's a notion. And it only works when we are invested in the experiment. And we are being tested right now. Each and every one of us are being tested. And we have to show up ready to do the work of the democracy. And that means showing up at local meetings. How can I pitch in? How can I help do the work? Thank you for your question.
I think we have another questioner on deck, but before they go, I'm just going to call the next three to come down and find a seat at the microphone closest to you. So we have 215, 215, 257, and 094. 215, 257, and 094. And if you don't come down, we'll bring you.
Yeah, my name's Robin Chadwick, and I am retired, but for years I worked in the legal system. And I guess, there's a lot of issues, but one issue I think about a lot is we've lost our credibility with the world because of the erratic, sometimes illegal, traumatic issues that the administration has been falsely addressing. And I guess, how do we step back from that? How do we, it seemed like the legal cases that were brought against him only inflamed his supporters and made him a martyr. And made people want to vote for him more and support him more. And so how do we fix that? How do we, it seems like we would almost have to do something radical, which is, somehow put him in prison, like they did with the South Korean president or something. How do we deal with this? I guess
I appreciate that.
Question,
and so I want to start with what you said at the top, because I think it's really important. In just about 2.5 months, this administration has destroyed 80 years of goodwill around the world by cutting the development aid, by going after some of our closest allies and trade partners, by sitting in the Oval Office and demonizing Zelensky while taking orders from Putin. And then just today, I don't know if you saw today, with the president of El Salvador. So it is incredibly alarming. And this is the piece that really infuriates me when I'm on the floor of the House. Because I look at members of the committees of jurisdiction, Foreign Affairs, the Intelligence Committee, Republicans who know how dangerous this is, who know how dangerous Signalgate was when you've got our cabinet members discussing war plans on an unsecured act. So yes, the damage that has been done in such a short amount of time is shocking. And unfortunately, it's going to take, I think, a generation or more to rebuild. What we need to do in Vermont is continue to be a beacon of light for Quebec and for Canada. I have meetings over Zoom with Canadian officials who they just want reassurance that we in Vermont are still partners, whether it's economic partners. We have friends and family. We have people who rely on those relationships. And so, again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The damage is severe, and we have a lot of work to do. To your point of what do we do? I think you know that if we bring impeachment orders, nothing is going to happen because Johnson is in Trump's pocket. He's supposed to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives, a separate branch of government. He is supposed to be standing up for all members of Congress, regardless of party. But instead, he has become the lapdog of the president. And he has given up our power. And Republicans have let him. And that is to all of our detriment. I don't care what political party you are. You are not there to rubber stamp the president. There were times when I disagreed with President Biden. What you do is you give voice to what your constituents want from you. You are not there to bootlick any man's boots. So it's really important too right now that you support international organizations as much as you can. And if you have specific issues around migrants, refugees, immigrants, if you have specific questions, Aileen, who's on my staff, is here tonight. She's the best in the business, and we want to help. We want to help.
Hi, my name is Laura, and I'm a scientist. I work with the federal government, and since the incoming administration, I've been on the kind of front lines. I don't work for the federal government, but I contract with them with my university. And so I work with NOAA and a lot of other organizations. And so I've seen the cuts. And listen, I don't support cutting science, but if you do it in a legal way, I don't support it, but I can't protest. But this is blatantly illegal. You have people who have no idea what we're doing, cutting our data, cutting climate data that we use to predict storms, things like that. So I've seen all of these illegalities happening since January. And now we're getting to unconstitutional actions taken by the Trump administration that are infringing upon fundamental rights. And I understand that you don't have the votes for impeachment, that you can't bring legislation to the floor. But we have seen all of these infringements upon our rights, illegal cuts to funding. Do you support the concept of impeachment? Do you
oh my gosh, this is the most corrupt president we've ever had. Absolutely. It's unbelievable, of course.
So if you had the majority, or if you had 4 Republicans, you'd be willing to bring legislation to the floor?
This man is not fit to be in office. Okay. And my colleagues know it, and they prop him up.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting this. Regarding the constitutionality of cruel and unusual punishment, we are exporting cruel and unusual punishment to another country.
Yes.
We need to sue the United States of America and let them know that this is unconstitutional.
It is unconstitutional, it's inhumane, it's craven, and luckily I am able to serve on judiciary with one of our best constitutional scholars in Congress, Jamie Raskin. One of his constituents was one of the constituents who was ripped away from his family, and so absolutely, we need to sue. So I should have mentioned this earlier. If you don't follow Democracy Forward, you should. Sky Perriman, her organization is one of the organizations that is leading a lot of the lawsuits against this administration. And so they have a tracker on there. They also have a rebuttal to Project 2025. So if you're not following Democracy Forward, definitely do that. And I hope you know that what is happening right now with snatching people off the streets and disappearing people, okay? I want to make this clear to everybody. Every single person in this country, regardless of status, is entitled to due process. Yes. Every single person. So don't Okay, we are all entitled to that. And we need to stick up for each other.
Hi, I'm Wayne Blanchard. I'm a former educator and also served in the Air Force for 4 years. So a lot of issues that you mentioned concern me as well. I mean, I was on a missile base, so security was extremely important, and to take that loosely just amazes me. As I said, I worked in schools, so I know the importance of supporting kids that have disabilities, and that funding, or the whole system seems to be at risk. I just bought an electric car, and I just found out that all of the things have been frozen to put in charges around Vermont. So a lot of different issues. I think the one that affects our family the most, though, is that my brother-in-law is in an assisted living facility in Vernon, and he's totally dependent on Social Security, and without that doesn't cover the cost, so Medicaid is extremely important.
Yes.
I wonder I don't quite understand what the status is of what's happening with Medicaid specifically.
I really appreciate that question, and it's very confusing. And so, a couple things. So recently, the Republicans voted, I say the Republicans because they didn't have Democratic votes. They voted for a framework for a budget. It's not the actual budget yet because they have to go through a process called reconciliation, where the House and the Senate has to come to some agreement, okay? But the House passed budget framework called for $880 billion of cuts to Medicaid. Yeah. So a quarter of folks in Windham County, almost a quarter of folks in Windsor County, 40% of the births in this country are covered by Medicaid. If you have family members who are in an assisted living home, those beds are partially covered by Medicaid. It would be absolutely, completely devastating. Now, they continue to claim that because they don't use the word Medicaid in their framework, that they're not going to cut Medicaid. There is only one place in that part of government that has that much money in it for $880 billion of cuts, and that's Medicaid in that part. So they're not being honest. That's also called lying. Yeah. And I do wonder if they're actually lying to some of their members in their conference. Because Speaker Johnson will get up in front of the cameras and say, it doesn't say Medicaid in there, we're not cutting Medicaid. Okay? So, in the end, we don't know what will happen in the budget reconciliation. We don't know what will happen between the House and the Senate version. What I do know is the strategy right now is to demonize a program, okay, to strip it down, and then to privatize. That's been the playbook for 25 years. They wanted to do it to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social. I have a hard time saying Social Security. Social Security. And we cannot let them get away with it. And so that's why I always say it's not enough for us to use our voices. We've got to communicate with people in other states, family members, friends, for them to light a fire under their Republican colleagues. I tried to attach amendments in the Budget Committee to say, if you're serious about not cutting Medicaid, then sign on to this amendment saying you literally won't cut Medicaid. They wouldn't do it. Same with Social Security. And so I don't want to be alarmist, but every single Republican voted to cut Medicaid by $880 billion. So we have to hold them accountable. So I don't have the answer for you what it will look like in the end, but it's very clear. That's why I say they don't give a damn about working people, because that would not be part of the plan. Thank you for being out here. I'm sorry.
For the next question, we're going to get the next few on deck. You guys are doing great.
Can I say one other thing, Carolyn?
Yes, please.
Okay, we haven't even talked about DOGE yet. Okay. DOGE is supposed to be all about cutting and waste, fraud, and abuse. Okay, and I saw Speaker Johnson talking about the reason why they have to go after Medicaid is because of all that waste, fraud, and abuse. Saying that people are enrolling in Medicaid when they're not entitled to it. Fraud of this kind of Medicaid is negligible. And either he knows it and is lying, or he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and he's incompetent. So, thank you, Carol.
All right, thank you. So again, if your number is called and you still have a question that hasn't been asked, you can make your way down to the nearest microphone. The next one is 268, number 268, 296, and 099. These are the last three numbers on your ticket. 268, 296, 099.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm Pete Sticking up from Saxon River. I'm an educator. I got it.
It's a Becca Balint size microphone.
I'm Pete Sticking up from Saxon River. I'm an educator, former advisor of Natalie Silver.
Hey! Nice to see you. I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah. I'm deeply concerned with the undermining of our judiciary. And it's hard for us to rely on the free press. So I urge you to keep us informed. Because we don't have the time, we don't have to follow it all. So using your position to help us. The undermining the judiciary meaning the rule of law. I do think the mechanisms are in place to endure this. And when this history is written, the first Republicans to break will be seen as heroes. Have you identified them? Likely candidates, and how can we help?
Yeah, well, thank you, I appreciate that. We know who the Republicans are that have considered themselves over the years, they call themselves governing minded, people who ran to actually get some stuff done for their constituents. The problem is, in the last few months, even those folks who we have traditionally thought of as governing minded, there for the right reasons, have continued to capitulate to Trump, both in committee and on the floor. There is no difference in their votes anymore. So it's very difficult for us to figure out who those four would be. But we're continuing to have those conversations. And again, there was a slight crack this week around tariffs. I saw Tom Cole and some other folks were interested in some pushback there. That's the first we've really seen. We have to build on that. But you said something else that I didn't want to lose track of. Oh, it's flown away. I'm sorry. The judiciary, of course. The judiciary. Okay, so look. What's happening right now with the weaponization of the DOJ is terrifying. So they have fired all of the nonpartisans. That's what they have. Government is mostly full of nonpartisans. They're selective service members who are just serving all of us, regardless of party. And Kash Patel, I don't need to tell you, is also not doing us any favors at the FBI. And so it's critically important in judiciary that we are going every single day in committee, holding them accountable for what they've done. And by that I mean the Republicans who are not speaking up. Now, in many instances, we've seen federal judges ruling in favor of the rule of law. That's good. Okay, I'll take it. But what has been happening in the last few days with Trump's defiance of the federal judge in that he is saying he's not going to return this man who is illegally sent to El Salvador, of course, is incredibly concerning. So people ask me what happens when we're in a constitutional crisis like that. There is only one choice, and we take to the streets. That's it. That's all we've got. There's no magic lever. I wish there was. There's not. But I have more faith in the Supreme Court right now than I did a few months ago. So, that's yes, yes, a little bit. because some players that I thought would not be willing to stick their necks out are in some of the rulings and some of the decisions that are being written. And so that has given me a little bit of hope, but it's very concerning. I don't know if I'm over here. Yep.
Hi, my name's Liz McNally. I'm basically retired. I do a little work from home doing graphic design. After the election, I really felt everything was hopeless, and that the only way would be to
She's
go.
feeling hopeless.
Would be to go through it. You know, people kept.
She's doing the best she can. She's doing the best she can.
I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
You're doing fine.
Okay, so I felt like it was like hopeless after
Yeah.
the election.
Yeah.
And the only way to get it, you know, we have to go through it. People have to feel the pain enough to vote, you know, to come together. But now we have the tariffs thing going on, and we have insider trading. Is there any way we could actually go after these Congress people that participated in it? Maybe not the top guy, but, you know, work their way up?
We are pushing that. She asked about insider trading. And there's definitely, you know, certainly on the surface, sure seems to be market manipulation in what's been happening with the tariffs. And we are all using, again, all the levers that we have to put pressure on to do those investigations. But I want to speak to your point about hopelessness, because it really is something that each and every one of us will wrestle with every single day until we right this ship. It's not as if you stop doing the dance with the anxiety and the worry. You just sort of learn on some days it's stronger than others, and on the days when it's not as strong, that anxiety isn't as strong, that's when you can do some work, and then you regroup the next day, and then you try and you go again, and you figure out what is your thing, and I'm going to keep working at that, but you have to take time to regroup. And the way that I regroup is I connect with my friends who are also doing this work, who can remind me that you do what you can, you cannot run yourselves ragged right now. We have a country to save here. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yeah.
Since it is a marathon and we have to sustain ourselves for the long term, I'm Candace Damon, by the way, I think we need a short-term win. We need to feel like we're going to succeed. What's your nomination for what we collectively could do and win in the short term?
Okay, great. So one of the things I was talking about was, we've already had some short-term wins. I think it's really important that we don't lose sight of that. So just a couple weeks ago, the Trump administration had said that nobody was going to be able to file their Social Security paperwork online or over the phone, that everybody was going to have to go in person. And that was part of the huge pushback that we saw last week with people out on the streets, hands off those programs, and they have reversed course. That's a win. We have to take those wins. That's a win. And a similar thing with, we had the Office of Management and Budget made a sweeping statement related to funding with federal funds that were supposed to go both to organizations here in Vermont and outside of Vermont. And they had to also dial that back when there was outrage. Our outrage, our pushing and taking to the streets and calling and writing and showing up and demanding answers, it does make a difference. It really, really does. So we got to keep doing that every single time. Every single time. And I love that dress.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm a little too tall for it. My name is Tiffany Keith, and I work helping people file for Social Security. So that's not what my question is about, though, because I don't know if you saw before just before you came. Trump was caught on a hot mic telling the president of El Salvador, you're going to need about 5 more of these because the homegrowns are next. So you're going to have to build 5 more prisons because the homegrowns are next.
What he's saying is he's going to deport U.S. citizens to the Supermax facilities in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if it's just criminals, criminals have rights. Even criminals have rights.
Yeah.
And what can we do?
Well, so
Is that a take to the street situation?
Well, it is, and also you have to understand that there are lawyers working around the clock right now for all of those individuals. I certainly want to share with you that on the way here, I was on the phone with Representative Rashida Tlaib, who many of you may know, is Palestinian. And Rashida was calling to make sure that we were aware of what was happening today in Colchester, where a Palestinian student who was called to a citizenship hearing, it's supposed to be the last step in his quest to get citizenship. And we're not sure if it was a ruse to get him there or whether they knew he would be there and they showed up, but they swooped in and detained him. And no charges. I believe it's an issue of him exercising his First Amendment rights. But a judge has already issued a stay in that. But yeah, we have to show up for these people. We have to show up, and it is absolutely and completely antithetical to who we say we are. So we can't just show up when it's our family members or our community members. We have to show up for these people, because if they can do this to someone with a green card, if they can do it with somebody who has special status and then just take away that special status, none of us are safe. This administration is not interested in following due process. So yeah, it is a take to the streets, but it's also making sure we're putting pressure on in those Republican districts. So reach out to your friends, reach out to your family members. I don't think people understand how bad things have gotten, and we have to connect those dots for people. Thank you for asking that.
Becca, did he stay in Vermont, or is he already in Louisiana or somewhere?
We believe he's still in Vermont, but we don't have the latest yet. We were communicating with the other
Who
two.
can stop this right now, as we're speaking?
I'm sorry?
What police force can stop the federal government from extracting someone across state lines? I thought we had laws against that.
Yeah. We have agreements. This is a great question for the governor. The state has entered into agreement with these federal agencies. And so this is a little bit, I want to make sure that I'm not giving false information. Our understanding is that he is still in Vermont. The judge has issued the stay, but you can imagine there's still so much more work that needs to be done.
All right, we're going to call the next couple of questions. Next one is last 3 digits, 112 075 107 and 096. Say those again.
I'm going to strip down a little bit. The lights
So 192 096 107 075.
Bingo!
Exactly.
Come on up.
I'm Nancy Richardson from Grafton.
Hi, Nancy.
And I've been involved in refugee matters and have worked with Aileen. She's great.
She is great.
There is another person abducted today from White River Junction, another immigrant snatched. And so I'm trying to figure out how we can be best informed when this happens, because you need to respond right away.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened in Somerville. So is there some way that you could devise a system, because this is going to keep happening in Vermont, that we can be informed?
I really appreciate that, and I'll put my head together with my team and figure out how we can do that. We have heard different things from different families and different folks who have been caught up in the system. Some people want the publicity, some people want to know what's happening, and other people do not want that private information to be out there. So, but I really appreciate what you're saying, and we'll talk about it and see if there's a way that we can be a conduit for that information.
Hi, thank you. My name is Lisa Moyer. I'm a social worker, entrepreneur, and a community organizer and environmental activist for 35 years. I appreciate you on your email list. I know you're doing all you can. We did go to the streets a week ago, and there were over 4 million people in the streets. And it was a blip on the radar screen. So my statement and my question is, when is the Democratic Party going to gather together in a unified message with a unified goal and be transparent and come out on the radio, on the television, in the newspaper, and give these people some leadership? We love you, but we are you to gather them, because we are losing here, and we need more people in the street. Believe me, I know we need 3.5%. We probably need a national strike, but we need the Democratic Party to lead the way. When will you make them get together? That's my question.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Saturday, Hetty Green! Yeah!
Yes.
National strike!
So I have been very open about my frustration with some lack of leadership and direction, both publicly and within my caucus. And what I've come to is that there is not one person that is going to emerge. There is not one event. There is not one thing that happens that is going to be the catalyst. And that is not to make excuses for what is a perceived lack of leadership and vision. I understand the frustration. I do. I can tell you that from where I sit, it has been very difficult to get people engaged on these issues. I can't tell you how many times, so I go to Vermont every weekend. I fly down to DC during the week, come back on the weekends. And the number of people that told me between November and the end of January, I'm so glad that you're my representative, so I don't have to pay attention. It was terrifying to me. And these were people who generally were engaged, and they were feeling exhausted, and they were feeling like, I gave everything I had to give. In the last 2 cycles, I got nothing left. So I do feel like there has been a shift in the last week. Part of the problem with it being a blip, and yes, there were millions of people out on the street, and not just here, but also around the globe supporting us. We do not have a news media ecosystem that is taking frames from anyone other than the Republican framing and playbook right now. The data that I could show you on how we are completely and totally outnumbered within the ecosphere is shocking, because most Americans are not getting their news really from news organizations anymore. They're getting them from their phones, from TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads and Facebook. And in terms of the number of people echoing the right-wing MAGA talking points, we are grossly outnumbered. So it is very difficult to punch through. That being said, I will tell you, I will continue to do what I'm doing on the inside, which is to push my leadership to take off the gloves, roll up their sleeves, go toe-to-toe, and not blink. That's what we need right now. And I see some glimmers of that. We need a lot more of that. We need a lot more of that. So I take your question to heart.
Okay, that was my wife. So I'm with her all the way. My question is very simple. Let's get in trouble. Let's make trouble. I just started collecting Social Security. I'm just retired. I got a lot of things going on, and I'm scared. And I'm a white male that is proud to say, I'm woke. I got it. I understand. Let me progress with this. So now I've gone backwards. Help me. What? Let's make trouble here. Let's go. Peaceful. I'm really angry. I've lost friends. I've lost family. and I have such a hard time communicating now because it's unbelievable. It's just unfathomable.
Yeah.
And I believe it's going to get better.
I do too.
But I don't know what to do besides go to the streets and...
Okay, appreciate the question. So I want to tell you about something that has been weighing on me for months, leading up to the election and after, is that one of the things that the Republicans were very good at leading up to the election was targeting young white men on college campuses. They had a whole strategy for pulling them into what I would consider extreme views on women, extreme views on immigrants, on gender roles, and they did it under the guise of just pulling people together in gatherings that were not necessarily political gatherings. It was a way to bring people together so they didn't feel lonely. We still haven't recovered from the pandemic in terms of our crisis of loneliness. So what happened in those months leading up to the election is we lost a lot of young men to the extreme algorithms on YouTube and on Twitter. And I started hearing from parents across Vermont, and it was in hushed tones at events. People would say, I need to talk to you about what I'm seeing in my son's newsfeed. And it kept happening over and over and over again. And we have to bring people back into community with each other. That is partly what we need to do. I do think we need to make trouble, and good trouble, absolutely. But part of what we're dealing with right now is an incredible crisis of loneliness and disconnection. And we all have a part in healing that. And I do not think that we will turn a corner on this political moment if we also don't give attention to that and the mental health crisis in this country. It is the fear that is driving this is rooted in shame of people not feeling like they're good enough, that they've got enough, that they can take care of their family and friends. And it's tapping into that kind of rage. And so I agree, we have to show up full-throated, and I keep telling people I feel focused and fierce, and I'm channeling my rage. But I'm also very curious, and I'm sitting with people I don't usually sit with, and I'm asking them questions that I wouldn't normally ask, and we're going to communities that Democrats don't often go to, to say, tell me what your struggles are. How are we going to get through it together? That's what's going to get us out of this. I honestly believe that.
Do you have folks waiting on that side?
Nope.
I will go up, but it wasn't my number.
Oh, okay. Why don't you ask your question, and then we'll call someone.
Great. Hi, I'm Jessie, White River Junction. First of all, thank you. I do greatly appreciate what you have done for our state, and I've seen many of your YouTube clips of you battling and keep battling. I'm very concerned about the communities that you represent. I'm a former teacher. I work in a food pantry as a volunteer because people are hungry and there isn't enough food. We all know about the cuts and the impact it's having on our neighbors. I'm also a co-leader with my friend Glenn of Indivisible, which is a local group. And I highly recommend that you join the chapter or whatever group is important to you, because what you say about community is critical, and that will help our mental health, etc. To follow up on my whoops, she's not there anymore. The person before, I really am interested in two things.
Yeah.
What does unified opposition look like at the local level, the state level, and the national level? And do you support, I know that you are in Congress, so I'm not confused with this question. Do you support Schumer staying on his leadership with a 22% approval rating?
So,
thank you for taking my question.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to say, Indivisible has been incredible, not just here in Vermont, but across the country. And I actually had a good friend of mine who was feeling so isolated in Montana, and I said, you know, find your Indivisible, and she ended up founding one in her area. So, and they had like 2,000 people turn out last Saturday. So, look, I have been on a lot of talk shows talking about this. I think Schumer really made a mistake. I think he made a terrible mistake. I think he caved to the bullies. I think he is operating as if we still have the kind of relationships with Senate Republicans that we had 2 decades ago. It is a different era. Our strategy needs to be different. And ultimately, it's going to be up to senators in that chamber either to make a different decision about leadership, or somebody's going to run against him. And one of the problems that I see right now is that people see their seats, whether you're in the House or in the Senate, people will refer to it as like, well, that's Schumer's seat. It's not Schumer's seat. It's the people's seat. Every single one of us. If we start saying that, it's so-and-so's seat, it's not. The people run the seat. And if the people don't feel like they're being well represented, then it is within their right and authority and their responsibility to get a different representative or a different senator there. And that's, for me included too. If we're not willing to risk our seats every single time that we cast a vote, then get the hell out of the way. That's what I say.
All right, we've got time for a few more. 093 219 259.
And while I'm thinking so carefully about this question about leadership, because I'm a teacher, and I think really deeply about that question about democratic leadership. I want to bring up something that I found very interesting. The through line for focus groups that, I don't know if you follow a woman named Sarah Wanwell. She's actually a former Republican operative, but she is now, she's on a program called The Bulwark. And she does focus groups with moderate Republicans, progressives, Democrats, and her most recent one was looking at what is it that Democrats across the ideological spectrum want in this moment. And across it, whether you're a progressive or a blue dog or more moderate Dem, they said, we want fighters, that's what we want. Every single focus group said we want to see people doing everything that they can and fighting. And so I posed this to some Democratic friends of mine in Vermont. And I said, okay, so, because I'm curious about this too. I said, so when you say you want a fighter, what do you mean? And some people said, Bernie Sanders, right, AOC, that's what they're thinking of. Yeah, I love that. But true story. Some of them said to me, Gavin Newsom. I raise it to you, we're like, that's the challenge that we have right now, because there isn't one person that is going to represent all of the Democrats, because we can't even agree on what that leader should look like right now. So we've got to look to a lot of different people to galvanize this movement, and it has to be a movement of working people and veterans and seniors and teachers. That's where the power is going to come from.
Did anyone make it down yet to the front from those last three numbers?
Can people hear me? Hi, I'm Dave from Springfield.
Hey, Dave.
It's been quite a year for me. Last year I was hospitalized 5 times. Trump came aboard, and for 4 months I had health insurance problems from hell. I listen to people here, and the result of, the result of my experiences plus Trump have radicalized me. And I'm really concerned. I mean, I could ask a dozen questions, but I'm really concerned about perception.
Okay.
The Democrats, whether it's true or not, have the perception of not really, forgotten their base. I had a while back, as Trump supporters say to me, I stopped supporting the Democrats because they stopped supporting the working man. And, you know, whether or not that's true or not,
that's the perception.
That is the perception. So how do you change that?
Right.
And also, you know, I'm really concerned. I thought insider trading in Congress, it was illegal, and I was surprised. And another thing that really bugs me, could you explain to everybody what pay-to-play is, how that works, and also what you see you can do to change that?
Okay, so you got a couple different questions there. So, Carolyn, can you help me remember what the different pieces were? There's a lot there.
Come back. We want to make sure we hear the 3 parts of your question.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm back again.
So insider trading, pay to play, and your first point, the perception of the not supporting the
Okay, great. Yes, thank you.
I just needed you to stand there.
Yes, okay, I appreciate it. Okay, so this has been a concern of mine for a long time, the erosion of the working class within the Democratic Party. It has been a trend over the last 2 decades, certainly in earnest, and it is something that I think has gone hand in hand with this moment that we're in right now, which is the second Gilded Age, as someone who taught history for years, that, you know, we are seeing what happened 100 years ago play out again right now. What is shocking is when you ask people which party is going to guarantee, you know, work on minimum wage or paid family leave or earned income tax rate or all of those things, they can't distinguish which party is going to do that for them. And when you ask them which party is more equipped or ready to fight corruption, there is no difference. So we've lost our way. We've absolutely lost our way. So it is something that I work on a lot within my caucus, is spending a lot of time talking to working people, talking to unions, talking across geographic difference, making sure that we're still making the case, even to our Republican colleagues, that you have to stand with unions. But we have so much work to do, and I think part of it is, who do we feel comfortable electing to represent us? And does Congress look like working America? And I would argue, no.
No.
So what else?
I wanted you to explain what pay to play is.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understand which you're referring to, because there's a lot of different
Well, as I understand it, if you're back in 1995, Tom DeLay and
Newt Gingrich?
Gingrich instituted pay-to-play for the Republicans. And then, you know, what it means is if you're in the Republican caucus, you have to give money every year to the Republicans. And the Democrats initiated that, you know, on their...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, so...
I just sort of compare it to insider trading because offices are purchased and...
Oh, gosh, no. No. In terms of us raising money to pay dues within the caucus, I raise money to help other districts that are swing districts, battleground districts. And so I certainly know that those colleagues that have much more expensive races, it's important for me to contribute to them. So I'm not paying for my position on committees, or I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to.
Well, that's the way I understood it. I mean, you know, when you first start out as a rep, you pay a small amount, but as the years grow and the longer you're there, you pay more money. And then if you want to get on a prestigious committee, you pay more, etc. That's what I understood.
Well, all I can tell you is we all raise money so that we have the ability to help other candidates in very challenging districts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Glad you're our rep.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll have closing remarks.
Hi, Becca. My name is Karen. I apologize. I'm really nervous. I feel like I'm kind of coming in on the opposing side. As a registered independent.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
I'm a stay-at-home caretaker. I have an 18-year-old autistic son. My husband is a 20-year veteran, active with the Vermont Guards.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question is about a bill that you have recently put out.
Okay.
And it's about transgender care.
Yeah.
My biggest concern is that Big Pharma pushes so hard, and that's where it's coming from. Surgeons don't provide care, they provide service. It's doctors who provide care. And when there's more support behind surgical procedures, especially when it's funded by Medicare and Medicaid, there's less focus on the mental health side. Gender dysphoria is a mental health disorder. It is recognized, but it's not treated as such. And I think too many people are falling between the cracks. They are getting lost. They are being sent for pharmaceuticals, and that's where that industry is profiting. And then surgeries are being performed. And there was a study from the NIH that came out last year in April. It was updated in June that said post-surgical patients were 12 times more likely to commit suicide.
So I appreciate the question. I appreciate the question.
Mental health going to be prioritized over surgery and pharmaceuticals?
Well, it is. It is. It is. It is. So yeah, and I appreciate. You know, I talk to a lot of Americans, a lot of Vermonters about this issue, and I know it is not easy to stand up at the microphone and talk about any issue. And clearly, you feel very deeply about this, and I believe that you're coming from a place of caring. And I will tell you, I spend a lot of time talking to my colleagues in Congress about this issue. And I spend a lot of time talking with families of trans kids here in Vermont and across the country. And I can tell you that getting the care that your kid needs should be guaranteed to every American, regardless of whether they are queer or trans or whether they are
Autistic.
Right? Everyone's entitled to that. What I know is the government should not be in the business of telling parents what they can and can't get, the kind of care that they can get for their kid. They just shouldn't. And my friends who are trans or who are parents of trans kids, they just want to live their lives without people constantly interfering in their business. And I know, again, I know that where you're coming from is coming from a place of caring and not wanting big pharma.
It's not taking away.
I understand. But what I want to assure you, are the doctors and the nurses and the mental health providers here in Vermont who are providing care for transgender kids are professionals.
There's not enough of them.
That is true, but that's not because of big pharma.
That's where the money's going, though.
So I want you to, in some ways, to just know that people are not being fooled or forced into things. People are trying to get the care that their kids need to save their lives so they can live lives of dignity. And I think I've got to end it there. So thank you for being here.
Better home care, better education for the parents, because it's the post-care where the kids are getting lost.
Well, I will talk to our providers who treat patients here in Vermont, and I will pass along your concern about post-care, and I hear you. I hear you.
Thank you to everyone for all your questions and for trying this new process with us. We welcome feedback on it. I'm going to turn it over to the Congresswoman for some closing remarks, but like I said, if you didn't get a chance to answer a question tonight, or if there is something else on your mind, you can visit balint.house.gov. You can call our office in Vermont. You can find one of our staff on the way out. We all have business cards at the table by the door, and we're really happy to keep connecting with you. Thank you so much for coming.
The last thing I want to say is, it matters that you showed up. It matters that you're here and that this room is packed. That people come out, you care about your community, you care about the democracy, you want to do your part. And I desperately need you to be invested in preserving this experiment that we call democracy. We all have a part to play. And there are times when I worry that I can't work hard enough or fast enough or strong enough, because what's being asked of me is so beyond what anyone imagined that they would be doing in Congress right now. And I want you to know, I'm going to make mistakes because I'm human. And I'm going to sometimes come up short. But I want you to know I will always, every single day, will be showing up in Congress to fight desperately for the needs of Vermonters and to protect this democracy that I love so much. So thank you for being out here.